Well, it's time now for a look at the day's top business stories, and for that I'm joined in the studio by Brian Quinn. Hi, Brian. We're starting in the United States, where the Biden administration's landmark coronavirus rescue package is set to get final congressional approval.
That's right, Axie. That $1.9 trillion stimulus package is expected to clear the House of Representatives for the second time after being revised and passed by the Senate this past weekend. The bill marks a historic achievement for longtime Democratic priorities, including not just $1,400 relief checks for most American individuals, but also extended federal unemployment benefits, $176 billion for schools, $105 billion for health care, and billions in tax credits for families. Analysts expect the bill to lift some 13 million Americans out of poverty and reduce child poverty by more than half in the country. Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen says the administration will be rushing the aid out as quickly as possible. Here she is.
If we do our job, I'm confident that Americans will make it to the other side of this pandemic and be met there with a measure of prosperity. By the end of the year, I expect your city economies will resemble 2019 much more than 2020.
And Brian, another key figure out of that stimulus bill is $350 billion for state and local governments.
Well, those state and local governments have seen their coffers severely depleted by falling tax revenues during lockdowns. One of the localities set to benefit from the cash injection is New York City, which is planning to use $65 million of its stimulus aid for a fund to benefit taxi drivers who have struggled not just with the pandemic, but also with the rise of Uber and other ride-hailing apps. Mario Sofas reports.
It's just a small chunk of the United States' $1.9 trillion stimulus package, but it will come as a relief for New York cabbies who've been thrown deeper into financial uncertainty by the COVID-19 pandemic.
Today, with stimulus funds, we're announcing the Taxi Medallion Owner Relief Fund, a new approach that will provide money directly to drivers.
The $65 million fund offers New York's yellow taxi owners a $20,000 loan to use as a down payment to restructure debts related to their permits and up to $9,000 in debt payment support. Many drivers took out loans to purchase their permits or medallions when values were high. Since 2013, though, the value of a taxi medallion has plummeted from $1 million to $200,000, leaving thousands of owner-drivers buried in debt. Uber and other taxi apps have taken much of the blame for the crash in the medallion market, while the pandemic has further dried up their customer base.
Many medallion owners are struggling. I have heard the pain in their voices, that they have had to choose between making debt payments or providing their families with a roof over their heads and food on the table.
President Biden's stimulus plan aims to protect businesses and households across the country. The legislation includes extension of more generous unemployment benefits, sending direct stimulus checks to struggling families, as well as allocating more money for the US vaccination program.
Time now for a look at the markets. How are they shaping up today, Brian?
Well, Axie, Asian indexes are mixed on Wednesday, that after a blockbuster Tuesday session for tech shares, especially on Wall Street. Investors, though, still worried about looming inflation as the global recovery takes hold. The Nikkei in Tokyo falling back from earlier gains to finish just over the flat line as the yen weakens against the dollar. Chinese indexes mixed with the Shanghai Composite just under the flat line. Hong Kong's Hang Seng just on the other side. The Kospi in Seoul down around 0.6%, just ahead of the close there.
Now from you, Brian, the collapse of a British finance giant is leading to fears of job losses not only in the UK but also around the world.
That's right. Greensill Capital filed for bankruptcy on Monday. The firm was the main financial backer of Liberty Steel. That's the UK's third largest steel company. 5,000 jobs there are now at risk. Greensill's specialty was short-term corporate credit that many of its clients depended on to finance day-to-day operations. The company's failure could now lead those clients to default on their obligations, and that could endanger some 50,000 jobs worldwide. Liberty Steel's parent company, GFG Alliance, also operates 3 major metalworks here in France. Finance Minister Bruno Le Maire says the government here is ready to step in and protect their workers.
The employees of Hayange, Ascoval, Dunkirk Aluminium should know that the state has their back. It will protect them. I went to great lengths to keep the Ascoval site going. Now there are orders. It's profitable. The state will protect employees.
And finally, for business, a major climate pledge from some of the UK's top pension funds.
Indeed, a group of funds with assets worth over €1 trillion has committed to getting their portfolios to net zero carbon emissions by 2050. The Church of England, Lloyds Banking Group, and a number of public pensions are among those promising to get their investments in line with the 2015 Paris Climate Accords. Some 60% of CO2 emissions put out by publicly traded firms come from companies that represent just around 10% of market value, while some institutional investors have avoided divesting from major polluters for fear of harming their returns. Recent studies do show that green investing by pension funds actually brings slightly better results. So hopefully a bit of progress in that climate investing pledge there at Haxi, but 2050, also hopefully we're not all underwater by then already.
Fingers crossed is all I can say. Brian Quinn with a look at the day's top business stories. Thank you very much.